Yes, and welcome to Vasili's Garden, folks. I'm just absorbing a little bit of sunlight. Today it was about 17 degrees, but it's cooled down pretty quickly, even though we've still got a little bit of afternoon sun left, shining. Now, if you recall, about 3 months ago or so, I planted my little first batch of garlic in this little bed here. Now, be it all, the garlic heads that I had were quite small. They were actually quite small. They weren't big garlic bulbs. So when I divided them into the cloves, they were tiny. And I didn't expect them to become big plants overall. And I dare say I don't expect them to form large garlic bulbs either. But in the course of growing, I've noticed that this bed here where I planted, and if you refer back to the old video, I didn't top dress this with any additional compost or planting mix, but rather I just gave it some black grit just to balance out the nutrient release in the soil, and hoping that it all goes well. And it has been going well, despite the fact that the soil itself is quite sandy underneath. And what I found is that it doesn't retain its moisture. It's not hydrating that well. And there's a number of reasons for that. The main one being a sandy sort of base and a lack of microbial activity in the soil, or a low count of microbes in the soil. And that is all due to the fact that I didn't add more compost when I first did this, or planting mix, which is what I love using in the rest of the beds. When you compare these garlic here, even though they're a small head, to the other ones which are a lot larger in head, you'll see the size of the foliage and the growth of them on them quite different, vastly different. They're a lot larger, but there are two batches there. One is the large one, and you'll see it quite easily which ones are the bigger of the two. And the other ones were slightly bigger than these bulbs, are performing better. Well, I suppose growing quicker, and not showing a little bit of stress that these are experiencing. And it's only because of the hydration. And on top, when you put the mulch on, it looks all nice and moist. Now, keep in mind, I've already watered this bed earlier today, anticipating warm weather and a little bit of wind. So when you look at the mulch on top, it all looks really good and proper, and you think it's all doing well. But when you scratch just below the mulch, you'll find that it's either wet because the organic matter is active, like the microbes, and the more microbial activity, in other words, bacteria and fungi that you've got going in the soil, the better the humus develops. And what I mean by that is that the humus count in the soil is high. And when it goes high, like in a 5%, which is what we're looking at, you get a higher level of moisture retention in the ground. So per square metre, it's over 70 litres approximately. But if your humus count is low, and obviously you reduce the amount of water accordingly, so 5 to 70, let's say it's about 13 litres, I'm having a stab at this. So for every % of humus that you have in the soil, that's how much water is retained in the bed. Now 1% will be 13 litres, 2%, 26, and so on. We aim for about a 5%, which is an amazing count to have. I reckon this one's sitting probably around the 1% if I'm lucky. Now this was watered about 2 or 3 hours ago, and I just want to scratch below and just show you. And I haven't had a look yet. I have had a look when it's dry, but I haven't had a look while it's wet like this. So let's investigate. I dare say there'll be a lot of roots entangling here, and you can hear the cracking. And most of these will be coming from, probably from the garlic, I think. But if anything, it'll be from all the silver beet we had. Look at that, here we go. This is what I mean. Look at this. I've just gone down about an inch. Not even, just below an inch, which is 25 mil metric measurements, right? And just below that, this is what I've got, all right? Look at this, silty, all right? Sand and silt, there's no clay particles in there at all. Dry as a bone, look at that. Now, for the history lesson, I brought in, and I've said it a few times, but for those who don't remember or haven't seen the videos, I brought in some soil from a garden centre, and it's not about the garden centre itself, it's about the soil that was delivered here, which they bought and then obviously on-sold to me. It was contaminated, and this is, well, all my raised beds received it. You know, I've got, I don't know, half a dozen plus raised beds. This bed here in particular, I didn't top dress it with compost or planting mix. I only just, and maybe I did at the beginning, well, before I planted the garlic, or a season before that, because I remember having some chilies or capsicums, but when I planted the garlic, I didn't. And My own fault. I should have recalled on what I've had in this garden bed and started working it, because it needs to be brought to health, to good health. Now let's compare this bed to the bed on that side of the mesh, which is only about 1 metre apart each one, that is, in width. That side has had compost and planting mix added to it. This side hasn't, and you can tell by the height difference. This is lower, that's higher. So this got a top dress. Now let's have a look. I'll get a lot of roots in here. And it should have the sand down below, but you can see the difference already. It's not as silty, see that? Geez, there are a lot of roots in here. So it still needs more hydration. It's not quite forming because it's a little bit dry. I can feel the moisture there, but it needs more water. But that is better, it's getting better. So I've still got to work this, and what I need to do with these beds here now, folks, and you can see what I've got on this side, I haven't mentioned earlier, a little bit of lettuce. I'm overwintering the capsicums. These ones have gone to heaven. Obviously they're not going to survive, so we're going to pull them out. But I've also got elephant garlic growing in here. Now these are really doing well. And this is Cara interrupting me again because she wants tickles. Let's have a look over here. Yep, just get in the middle of us, Cara. These are the roots coming from... Jesus, we've got roots growing everywhere in here, and I'm tearing them all up. Look at that, that's starting to form better. That's getting better, that's what we want to see, that clumping. That tells me the moisture retention is getting there, and it's starting to decompose well. And now the only way you're going to build this better is by adding organic matter. Now you can keep adding layers upon layers on this to build it up, and what I mean by that is, well, I prefer using my planting mix because it has got everything in it. It's got the compost, it's got the black grit, it's got the superfood and all things like that, so you can use it as a top dress. And if I go over here, just quickly, and this is about soils, folks, not just about the garlic. So there's the other garlic going, and there's the other garlic over there next to the carrots. But let's have a look at the soil here. Well, these beds here didn't get that topsoil, but the base is sandy loam by nature. Now this soil is connected to the earth below, whereas those aren't. They're contained within that bed, and there is a liner underneath there as well. So we got to bring the life back into those, and we're going to have to add lots of organic matter, like I've done to this bed here, to show you how it forms. See that, how it breaks apart beautifully? Now that is sandy loam base, or a sandy base to start with. There's a little bit of clay in there as well, down below. But this is all the organic matter that I've put into it that forms beautifully into a ball, but it breaks away just so freely like that. And that's what you want to see happening in your garden bed. And eventually you'll see the worms in there as well, the earthworms in particular, and obviously the composting worms. So these beds are active, they're coming along really well. We've got our garlic growing in there, the carrots are doing well over there. It's nice and soft and loose. And just keep digging in here, and just look at that. I don't know what that is. Is that a weed growing in there? The roots are starting to develop. It might be grass, it could be anything. Was that part of the plant? No, that is something else. Pull that aside. But again, look at that, how it forms. See that? That's fantastic. Let's go and top dress the other bed. That's even better. Look at that. So if you've got a garden bed that's sandy like this, or not holding its moisture, it's not, absorbing and not composting well, you need to add lots of organic matter to it. So what I'm going to do is, to start with, is add some superfood. I'm just trying to decide. I'm going to go with a quick release in this one. Actually, no, I'm going to go the slow release. This is the granulated form, which is great for all sort of applications. This is what it looks like. It looks like just different grades of slow release fertilizer, but all made by the soldier fly frass, or larvae. It's a frass, sorry. And we've got the chitin in there, which should help trigger the plant's enzyme to warn off pests and diseases. So this is just to feed and populate and help the life in the soil activate, like that. And then I'm going to come back and add handfuls of compost around the area, almost to the point where you may not even see the mulch on top, because I need to build it up. I don't want to build it up too much because we've still got the garlic growing in here, but I do want to start to build it as the plants get bigger and stronger and healthier, so that we can populate the life in the soil, because it's all about microbial activity. The higher the count, the better the life, the more resilient your plants become, and the higher the Brix count. So that means they will not get attacked by pests and diseases that easily, if at all. You'll see that how bad the soil is here because we've got some silver beet. And just to finish off, this silver beet here has been decimated because the quality of the soil is poor. So let's give this a feed as well. Some of the superfood, put some around these capsicums, and then we're going to come back and top dress this with some compost as well, folks. So if your garden beds are struggling, make sure you populate it and do it every month. It won't hurt. You know, a light sprinkle of compost over the top, even with some superfood, and I recommend the superfood. This is great stuff. It doesn't smell like the old stuff, and it is a slow release and a quick release as well. You will help your garden bed come to life, and you'll start to see the results. It doesn't happen overnight. You can also use biostimulants as well, which are the liquid fertilizers. But start off with some compost and superfood, and then as the season progresses, you can start adding more black grit and more compost and more superfood and more black grit. And that's all you need. Check it out on our website, Vasili'sGarden.com, or go to your local garden centre and support them because our product range is out there. From me, Vasili, Maresi.